Welcome to I'm from the internet. I'm cold and tired, and I'm in a hole. How are you, Jay?
All three of those, but doing pretty good.
All right. Cold and whole.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I gotta tell you, I am gonna drive 12 hours to Charlotte tomorrow. Not looking forward to it.
Not in this weather, no.
No fucking thanks, man. It's so goddamn long. It's like, there's just only so many podcasts that you can listen to and so many books you can listen to before your brain just turns into mush. And, it's not gonna be fun, but that is what it is. I could break it up over 2 days, but that means that I would be gone for today, and that's a pain in the ass. And it's also like, that's another couple $100 of being on the road. And, yep. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I did have a fun podcast-related interaction last weekend. I stopped at the dispensary that opened near here, and I was chatting with the guy who owned it, and he asked me about football, and I was like, I don't know anything about sports. I can talk about video games and podcasting. That's about it. And he was like, oh, what's your podcast? I was like, oh, it's about internet history, old websites. He's like, hey, man, you ever heard of this website called newgrounds.com?
That's fun.
And I was like, oh, yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I was like, it's still around. He's like, no way, really? And it was just like, it was fun that I had something I could talk to someone like that about, when normally I would just be like, I have no idea what I can say here.
Yeah, I doing the oddities shows, I do get a number of people who come up and they're just like checking in and asking me about the podcast, and that's how they found out about me or whatever. And I think that's really fun.
Yeah, I didn't know about these expos until I met you. So it's been cool. I'm sure a lot of people now they know about them. I wanted to go to one. So
yeah, one thing I'm going to try to do more moving forward is just integrate more promo of the pod onto everything that I do, because I'm so tired of having people find out that I do a pod that I've been talking about nonstop for like 2 straight years. So when I post my Twitter posts on Instagram are usually really popular, but if I cut it down to like 5, or I cut it down to 9 posts, and then the last one is like also listen to the podcast, that would be really useful, I think, to get a few more ears on the prize. But yeah, man, we're hanging. Totally. We're cold.
Yeah, not as bad as you, I don't think, but
no, yeah, it is very cold here. But anyways, we're brought here today to talk about what you are calling PokéGods.
Yeah, the PokéGods. This is going to be a fun trip down memory lane for me, because Pokemon was kind of one of my first internet obsessions. Like my entire summer vacation between 5th and 6th grade was just literally, I would go on Alta Vista, search for Pokemon, and I had bookmarked 12 pages in. I just go to the next page, just check every single website, go to the next page, and keep it bookmarked. I wanted to see every Pokemon website I could. It was
oh, of course, yeah. And it was just so funny that looking at the one that I'm looking at here, and a lot of the other ones that I've heard about, the Pokemon myths, they're all based on just complete insanity that makes no sense, but it's such a perfect crystallization of a child's mind of just not knowing how anything would ever work. Pokemon, but you can travel back in time and you can kill somebody else's Pikachu with a gun or some insane shit. It's no, legally they could not do that and sell the game as it is. That's not a real thing. But I mean, just the one that you have up on the main page here is very funny because it's just not a real thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, this one here this was actually printed in an Expert Gamer, a magazine. It says Pokemon Hidden Yoshi. Most players need to have beaten the game with all 150 Pokemon for this trick to work. 1. The blue version player trades the red version player for a Dratini. 2. The blue version then evolves the Dratini to a Dragonite and trades it back to the red version. The red version should head to the basement level of the unknown dungeon and surf closest to where Mewtwo was. Then take a Firestone and use it on the Dragonite. Notice, not available will appear, but still select it. 3. The screen will glitch and the Dragonite will evolve into Yoshi. 4. This Pokemon will still keep the stats of a Dragonite. However, in the stats screen, it'll have Yoshi's pick with the ID number of 999 from J. Esther via the net.
I just love that they did not test this at all.
Well, I will say, this one was from the April Fool's edition, so this one was kind of a joke. But at the end, I'm going to tie that into things. But yeah, this was a good illustration of like what these were like.
I do remember that they had an April Fool's piece in EGM that was for their beach volleyball, whatever.
Yes, that was so good.
Yeah, where it was like a nude code for their beach volleyball game. And like the fucking, apparently they were just absolutely inundated with letters of kids that are like, it doesn't work! I need to see breasts!
One of them was a teenager who included a picture of him flipping them off, like shirtless. Like he was like just about to be jerking off and be like, oh god damn it! Like,
that's so fucking funny, dude. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
Also, it's funny because one of EGM's April Fool's jokes was doing a Lord of the Rings kart racer, and it's like 20 years ago. The idea of what if we made a kart racer out of a serious fantasy series was already kind of trite, and now everyone thinks Bloodborne kart is like the funniest thing in the world.
To be fair, Bloodborne kart is fucking crazy. Yeah. The fact that was made by one person, I've never played Bloodborne, which I know is like blasphemy, but I haven't had a console since PlayStation 2. And the fact that all of that was made by, of course it was made by a trans woman because they make some of the most interesting shit on the internet. I mean,
the lady who made it is cool. I mean, I appreciate anyone who who posts their furry stuff all the time. I always like when people do that. So she's cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, take me on a journey here.
Sure, yeah. And before I will say, researching this, like I kind of got the feeling that a lot of the kids who are making this up, like, man, they would have loved creepypasta. Like if they could just discard.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what this feels like. It's like before creepypasta, they just made stuff up about real games. Like
that's funny. Yeah, I mean, like, what is it like? Jake is dead or something like
Ben
that.
Drowned.
Ben Drowned. Yeah. But I don't know, like, one of the things that I'm working on with Gang Stalkers and with a lot of the other storytelling stuff that happens in The Restless is, like, sometimes the scariest, most unnerving thing is just a single sentence. Like, Ben Drowned is a weird thing to see because it's just, like, it's so removed from the way that we normally talk. And I don't know. I like that. I do think that there's a lot of cool things that have happened in the world of creepypasta. And
I wasn't saying that derisively. I think creepypasta is
neat. I think that it's like, there's a lot of people who are like infuriated at the idea of children being creative because it's like, why aren't you writing the great American novel? You're just doing the things that you do before you start writing the great American novel. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So
your original character is derivative and self-indulgent.
Yeah. Imagine that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just a fun part of researching this too is finding like all these old like GIFs that used to be all over the internet, like the little Pokeballs that cycle through the rainbow, the Pikachu bouncing the Pokeball on his head. Just so many websites looked like this back then. It was very like
cozy. old version of Pikachu, which was chubby Pikachu, and now it's they've redesigned Pikachu so much.
Yeah. I like the Chungus Pikachu a lot more. Like, I mean, I don't think there's a Pikachu that isn't cute, but like I definitely like that design. That one looks more like an actual mouse.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and I will shout out both Bulbapedia, the Pokemon wiki, and also a website called a poster named Rage Candy Bar. They both did some writing on this, and I pulled from them pretty extensively from this, so I wanted to shout them out because, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here.
Yeah, shout out Bulbapedia, a thing I say 33 years of age.
Yeah. Well, they're going to come up a little bit more. They're a pretty neat wiki, but here, so... This is their description. I didn't feel the need to rewrite this. They go, PokéGods is a term used to refer to a certain group of fake Pokemon whose Pokédex numbers were greater than 150 and were supposedly obtainable in the Generation 1 games. The term was in popular use among fans in the late 1990s and into the new millennium. That's a little generous. This was literally from like 1998 to 2000. This was like from the period between Pokemon Red and Blue getting big to Pokemon Gold and Silver coming out. This was the time of the PokéGods.
Yeah, Pika Blue. I remember. I was there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and as the Gold and Silver versions were in development. The concept was very much discussed and disputed over on various forum websites at the time, and many edited screenshots were passed off as real to try and prove the case. Most PokéGods were said to be near invincible, while a few were only considered hidden bonus Pokemon. Codes and cheats to supposedly obtain these Pokemon were widely distributed. The cheats usually involved doing odd tasks that could take hours at a time, such as beating the Pokemon League a predetermined number of times, usually with a set Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you were saying, just these sort of like ridiculously improbable things, but it was something that was appealing enough and it was just plausible enough that we could do it that you might try it. Like that was a part of it. It was almost like a trap. Like, could they make something that you would fall for? Like, that's almost how I felt like something.
It is very like cult-like, I think, of like, you know, it's like a purity test, like an Om Shinrikyo style purity test where it's like you have to do all of this insane shit where we're like dunking you in ice water and hanging you upside down for 3 days and then boiling you. And if you still feel sick or still feel tired, that's because there's still bad karma in your body. You know what I mean? Like it's this thing where it's like, oh, you have to beat the what is it? The Elite Four? Is that what it was?
Yeah, those were the final bosses in that.
Yeah, you have to beat the Elite Four, 17 times. And then you can only heal with this certain, and it's just like things that maybe they would track now, but like, I don't think that they had room in the code of the Game Boy games to write all of that to track all of those different decisions.
Oh yeah, that is way outside of the scope of this episode, but on a technical level, Pokemon is a mess. It is fascinating to learn like how broken that game is. Also like how limited it is. Like each Pokemon is only like 84 bytes, I think. Like it was a very small amount of data. Like they were working with very small limits on the original Game Boy.
And that's why like the really unique speed runs of Pokemon games are fucking fascinating. Because it is like you're working within like this infinitely vast, complicated system that is all like just twisted and intertwined in these really stupid ways. It's really fucking interesting. It is very much like spreadsheets the game, and like how all of the powers intersect and stuff like that. It's really interesting stuff. There's a
Yeah, that is while looking that up, this is one of the things about Pokemon I find kind of fascinating is how it's like a series for children and it's designed to be kind of easy, but like the adult fans get really into that maximization where you find all these like things that don't even really matter, but you can optimize with them. It's a really interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting just how much like the person that I'm trying to find right now does a video of like exploring the like Pokemon the Coliseum or Stadium, right?
Yeah,
maybe
the console one.
Yeah, and so you can play that on okay, is it Big Yellow? Yeah, is this her? Yeah, okay. If you're listening to this, go give Big Yellow Silly on YouTube a follow because she'll do like these crazy breakdowns. One of like the history of colors of Lego, like how weird it was to how there's so few brown Legos because the pigment they used to make the brown made the Legos very fragile. But they had one about like the real Pokemon Stadium rentals metagame, which has 483,000 views. Good for her, man.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, she has this thing where it's like you can plug in your copy of Pokemon Red or Blue into your Nintendo 64 Pokemon Stadium game and then play your friend in Pokemon battles, where they like it just draws the data from the cartridge, and then when you attack, has these really big flashy attacks. It's like a very simple game that just is like enhancing your red and blue battles, which is actually a very cool idea back in the day, to like have another game that simply enhances the other. But if you didn't have your game, you could run with the rental Pokemon that were available through the like in-game browser, right? Huh. And they were all level 50, and they had move sets that were fucking bizarre. Like, they made no sense. There was no concept of a meta. So you'd have like this crazy strong Pokemon that would have a set of moves that are like, 2 were just like minor stat buffs that any player would have immediately gotten rid of. And they would have like a normal attack and then some bizarre other move that they learned from a TM. So it's like, it was like completely randomized. But that meant that Pokemon that would normally be completely useless now floated to the top of being really, really valuable. And I love systems. I love rules. I love figuring out how things work. And so it was just a really interesting series to watch. So give Big Yellow a follow. She's cool.
Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I guess the next part of here was before you sort of get into the PokéGods themselves, I want to kind of explore why this was a thing, like specifically with Pokemon at this time and place, because Pokemon was kind of a unique phenomenon at the time. So I guess part of this is, first off, Pokemon Generation 1 already had a secret 151st Pokemon that wasn't normally obtainable, Mew. So the fact that, that was a rumor for a while, and it turned out it was true. So you already had this one improbable thing that turned out to be real. So it was kind of like, well, maybe there could be more things there.
This is very much an instance of, okay, technically there was a thing where they did put chemicals in the water that turned the frogs gay. Yes, that did happen. But the Sandy Hook thing is completely fucking wrong. Like, yes, there was an instance of a secret 151st Pokemon that was attainable in a very arcane way. But the rest of it isn't true.
Yeah, pretty much. And also, like, this was another part, like there was that truck by the SS Anne. Like, there was stuff out of the beaten path that you could look at and be like, oh, that's weird. It had like stuff you could go off of because it was old enough that games were a little less polished, a little more, and like there was stuff like that. Yeah, because
I remember the whole reason. Okay, if you're a Zoomer and you don't know what we're talking about, Pokemon Red and Blue, I'm not going to give you the long short of it, but like it was a Game Boy game, and so the reason that it was so weird was that, like, you're right, it was packed into this game. Like, the whole game is just like a couple megabytes, right? An individual Pokemon is just a cluster of like 80 kilobytes or 80 bytes, right? It's so small. Hold on, let's scroll up. Jay is looking up right now. ROM size 1 megabyte.
Yeah.
Fuck. But Jay searched how big is the Pokemon Red cartridge size, and then it says AI overview. The original Pokemon Red cartridge for the Game Boy is the size of a standard Game Boy cartridge. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm going to post that later. That's really funny.
That's really funny.
How big? Well, that's not the size I meant, but thank you.
Yeah. But what was unusual about it was that, like, all of the grass textures for the game would be like a few dots repeated over and over and over and over and over again. The water is just like one little tiny repeating pattern over and over and over and over and over again. And so you'll just kind of the same way that in Super Mario, the bushes are the same texture recolored as the clouds, because they needed to save data. And so the whole game is ruthlessly streamlined to save data, like individual bits of fucking data. And outside of the SSN, which is a transitional period in the game, there's this little strip of land that you can access that has a truck parked there that does not exist anywhere else in the game. And there's no reason for you to go here. There's nothing to interact with. It's just this chunk of land. And like in video games now, they're absolutely packed to the gills with bullshit that you're not supposed to interact with. And that's why games have that thing of like, there's so much shit going on that we need to make the interactable items bright yellow or glowing or shiny so that your flashlight shines on it or whatever. Because the whole, like, we're no longer packing data. We can fit crazy amounts of detail in this shit. And so back then it would just be like, why the fuck did they waste this data here? What could be going on here? And so that's, why the Mew thing kind of took root right there, right?
Yeah, you have this one thing that doesn't make sense, and that's kind of the crack that everything can kind of open up from. And yeah, I guess
interesting.
Yeah, the Pokemon was a very glitchy and unstable game, so that kind of gave it hidden depths because you had stuff like Missing No, which was like a glitch that you could catch. Yeah,
I loved Missing No.
Oh, dude. Hell yeah, dude! That was.
I mean, like, name a better, like, genuine, like this, like if someone were to describe for you Missing No now, it would be like, you would just be like, shut up, that is just that's just like a cringy creepypasta.
Yeah. Oh, a ghost that gives you infinite items but can destroy your save file. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so, okay, if somehow you are unfamiliar with what we're talking about, there is a look up how it happens if you care about this kind of thing. But there's a strange series of things that you do in Pokemon Red and Blue, where you go to a part of the game where a certain degree of control is removed from the player. Then you fly to another part of the map that normally doesn't have Pokemon, I think. I don't know the exact rules for it. I'm sure there's a dozen YouTube videos explaining how it works. And you surf in the shore, and you go up and down, and then eventually you'll encounter a Pokemon the way that you do every other time. And the Pokemon's name is Missing Number, which is a wild, scary little thing to see when you're a little kid. And it's just like this backwards, it's like a J shape or a backwards L shaped cluster of just like static text. And if you catch it, the 7th item in your inventory will be set to 99. And as you progress through the game, it will slowly corrupt your save. So if you put that Pokemon in your bank with all of your other guys, it will slowly delete the other Pokemon as if it's eating them. And it was just so cool. It was like a way that you could get tons of items and tons of money in the game, but also like risk damaging your save file. It was very fucking cool and spooky and eerie and silly, and I don't know, loved it.
Yeah,
loved it so much.
It's really neat. I think that it turns out what happened was there's a part where you can swim on land, and since when you encounter a battle there's not any Pokemon queued up because it says you're swimming and they're in there, so it dumps the Missing No is just like dump data that fills it. So it's kind of like they don't have a Pokemon. That's why also the other ones that pop up are stuff that normally isn't usable in the game, like the fossils or the ghosts. So
right,
yeah,
and the it's something to do with the fact that, like, at the start of the game, there's an old man that shows you how to catch Pokemon, and he kind of takes over control of your character, and in order to, like, make sure that you have the chance to catch the Pokemon, he has 99, he sets the 7th item in your inventory to be 99, and that's where the Pokeballs are, right? And so if you move items around, you're able to get all of those items set to where they need to be, and it triggers something in that where it sets it to 99. I don't know, but it was a very cool, creepy thing that was entirely unintentional and just kind of emergent from the game. That was very interesting and spooky, and I'm confident inspired a lot of creepypastas.
Definitely, yeah. And just even little things like you could fish from the statues in that game. Like that was just a glitch, but that does seem like, that could be a secret, or there could be a reason for that. Like just little things like that. A lot of things that you could probe at and sort of let your imagination run away. And also, like Winslow mentioned earlier, like ROM dumping and data mining were still in their infancy at this time. So there really could be anything under that truck next to the SS Anne. Like we don't have a way of really going in there and being like, oh yeah, there's nothing there. It's still figuring out how to do that.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, and from the internet history perspective, like the internet isn't as centralized, so you have all these little fan websites and communities where they can incubate these rumors and myths and spread them around, and there's not really any central way of sort of, debunking or confronting them. Like a big one was there was a site called Pokemon Factory that was explicitly like a fan art site where people would design fictional Pokemon, and then stuff from it would get circulated as real, as we will see.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, or like something I did was if you're a kid and you have a website and you want to fill up with space, you just find someone else's website and copy the stuff in it. So a lot of times you like find someone else's website, see their how to catch Mew section, just copy and put it in yours so you have a section about Mew. Like stuff would spread that way.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is, I could be wrong, but like, yeah, I guess that's what you're saying here is that like, Pokemon would be released in Japan before they would be released in America. And so we would see art from Japanese magazines of Pokemon that, like, you could tell were going to be, like, they were designed by the original team. They looked like they're from the original show. It looked as official as possible because it was. And then it would be years before it would come to us. I remember my cousin telling me about Pika Blue, which was the evolution of Raichu, which is after the evolution from Pikachu to Raichu. And boy, in the middle of this sentence, I'm realizing now that I am 33. I'm 33. I get laid. But anyways, he told me, God rest his soul. He told me that Pika Blue was the size of a house and it could do thunder jolt or thunder zolt is what he said, and it was like it did 999 damage and would kill your entire team. And he just like would make shit up because of course he was older than me and I was a child. And then it turns out that the art that he showed me for that was Meryl, which was a gold and silver Pokemon that would be released a couple years later.
Yeah, that language barrier was wild because also like localization wasn't as fast back then. Like now, a lot of times Japanese games come out in English in America at the same time, but back like there was 2 years between Pokemon coming out in Japan and coming out in America. Like that was part of why it hit so hard because when it finally came here, there was years of games and toys and TV shows to dump out all there once it blew up. But
yeah, I'm so cold.
Sorry, buddy.
I just like that. No, I just like looking down at my picture on the screen, and like you're all like posted up, center shot, and I'm just down in the corner, just going like, "Yeah, man, totally." But yeah, there was a difference in the way that games were made there because that was during because the Emperor had the embargo. From Japan, and then it was the Dutch that opened up trade relations with the West, and that's how we got some of the earliest Pokemon that came over to America in the 1870s.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know Nintendo actually started out making Pokemon cards before they made video games.
Yeah, it all goes back, and that was back before they were all hunted to extinction. The Japanese, not the Pokemon. The Pokemon are still around.
The Pokemon went onto them to extinction.
Yeah.
I guess
it's we call it it's a reverse Native American where
a reverse Pokeball. It's where your Pokemon kick you out of your home.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I guess sort of on that note, yeah, like Pokemon was a lot of American kids' first exposure to anime, so I think that was a part of it too, because this is like a different sensibility than you're used to, and also you're aware that it's being censored and localized because of the internet. Like most people first learned about Pokemon because, like, hey, there's this crazy cartoon in Japan that put a bunch of kids in a hospital. Like that was a lot of like the first time I heard about Pokemon before it even came out here.
There's just a lot of shit. Like the Pokemon series is just fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
Porygon, which, okay, man, I know that this is well-trodden ground, but there's an all-digital Pokemon, and he's made out of polygons, but they call him Porygon, which is a... I don't know who did the well, we do know who did the translation for it, right?
Yeah,
it was a something awful guy.
Yeah.
Which is just like, was that an actual like self-own from the Japanese?
Actually, let me check it out.
Let's find this out.
Yeah, make fun of Bulbapedia, but they'll tell you that Porygon Japanese name is Porygon. So I think that's just how
so funny. Yeah. Like, was it like did they know that it sounded kind of racist?
I think that's just the Japanese word for polygon. Like it just transliterates as Porygon. Like how
that's so fucking funny, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah, usually they change that. Like Yoshi's Japanese name is Yasi. They call him Yoshi in English. Like they usually
please, it's called Yasi.
Yeah, he has his painted nails on his little dinosaur hands.
Yeah, it's all pointed up. Yeah,
yeah. Like the first time I ever learned about anime censorship was the episode where they go to the hunting lodge and there's like they didn't air it in America because everyone has guns. There's a bunch of parts where you have Ash having like firearms pointed at them, which is a very funny image to see as a kid.
Yeah. And it is funny because those are the firearms that were available in Japan, which are like long guns and some of the 1911s that were left over after the war.
Yeah.
And of course a revolver as well. And you have Jinx, which is very much like a racist depiction of what's the name?
Yeah, I know you're
Sambo.
Yeah, like a Sambo or like a Gollywog character. Yeah, like
yes,
the way that the developers explained it, said it's supposed to be making fun of it's supposed to be like a caricature of a Ganguro person, like we talked about in the Danganronpa, where it's like the spray tan and the blonde hair. But yeah, it just looks like Mr. Popo. It's blackface. Yeah. So now the way they kind of fix it is now they color her purple. But like that episode with Jinx is one of the ones that kind of got like removed from circulation, I think, because of that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like. It's racist for us, and I can understand that it might not be racist for them. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about it. But it is one of those things where it's like you can't say that the people that made this were specifically racist because it looks like blackface. They're in an entirely different country. They are probably not thinking about the American history of blackface when they were designing this. They might just have come at it from a different direction, but yeah, I mean, obviously now it looks very racist.
Yeah, like once they once they learned they were ignorant, they changed it. All you can ask
the last one here is it's Team Rocket and Misty, and they're all in swimsuits, and Misty is like a 14-year-old girl, so she. How do I say this without sounding like a psycho? Obviously, the adults in Team Rocket are a lot more developed, except for James, who has huge fucking milkers, just big old jugs.
Yeah, that's a gag where like they enter a swimsuit contest and he has like inflatable boobs to try and look impressive. And yeah, they cut that whole thing out in the American version because they weren't going to have a man with boobs on the kids show at that time, even for a joke.
Yeah, and I do think that it's funny how like. It's kind of like the way that people review The Simpsons and they try to force everything into the canon when it's just like I appreciate what you're doing. It was not written in a way where it like canonicity was central to the writing, right? Like how in It's Always Sunny, who's the fucking moron character? And they're all morons, but who's the guy who can't read.
Charlie.
Yeah. The early episodes, you see him reading, right? But then they changed his character, and so like people have all of these theories about how it all ties together, and then you just have to be like, sure, but it's probably not true. It's probably just they changed their idea. That's it.
Yeah, especially something like Pokemon where it's split between multiple companies. Like, this isn't like a single author's work. This is a toy commercial. Yeah.
Right.
And so I guess you sort of like explored this sort of weird time and space for myth making and stuff. So Peekaboo, like with all this stuff, like, yeah, Peekaboo being hidden in the game really isn't that much more ridiculous than the idea of Missingno or the anime hospitalizing children. So I get why, especially as a kid who is a little less scrupulous on a new thing like the internet, you might just fall for this.
Yeah, of course.
Even if you get that it's fake, it's still fun. Like, I like to read PokeFactory, even though I knew they weren't real, just because it was neat to see, like, fictional Pokemon. And to sort of highlight, you mentioned Peekaboo. Peekaboo was kind of like the MVP of the PokéGods. So this is sort of who I focus on. Like, this is what it looked like to be a PokéGod. Like you mentioned earlier, this before it came out in America, this image of Meryl circulated, and it looks kind of like Pikachu because it's the same art style. It's a mouse-ish Pokemon. It's a water mouse instead of an electric mouse. But so people assumed it was a Pikachu, and they called it Peekaboo because it looks like a blue Pikachu.
Yeah, and it is. It harkens back to a time when Pokemon designs were just like extremely 90s and basic and cute. And now Pokemons are all, they're all just kind of jagged and weird. And they're just like, they just look so weird and bad now. Who cares? I don't care. But they like the visual language is no longer there. And,
it doesn't have a cohesive visual style anymore. It's just kind of there's generations of them. There's hundreds of those little guys now.
Yeah, there's so goddamn many.
Yeah, but just like a sampling of ways back in the day people said you could catch Peekaboo. Use a max repel inside the unknown dungeon and walk around until a Pokemon penetrates the repel. This Pokemon is Peekaboo, but it appears in an odd form. The best way to catch it is to use a Master Ball. That's an older brother that said, like, it will be weird, but you have to use your most valuable item on it and then save the game and then give me $10. Yeah. No, you gotta keep walking. It'll show up eventually.
Yep.
Yeah. Trade a Pikachu 8 times, then use a water stone on it to obtain Peekaboo. Collect 99 of every single evolution stone. You will then receive 99 Mist Stones. Mist Stones was one of the rumor things. The idea was it was a stone that could evolve any Pokemon regardless of type. So a lot of them sort of use that as an ingredient. Use one of these on Pikachu to receive Peekaboo. Yeah. Walk left to right 20 times on the shore of Fuchsia City, then go to the Safari Zone. Peekaboo can be found. Unless it's...
Catch all 151 Pokemon, then bring a Golem level 100 that knows Strength, Dig, Seismic Toss, and Fissure in this order. Use Surf around the SS Ant to reach the truck. Use Strength on the truck's left side and enter the stairway underneath. You'll enter a pond in the Sylph Company where Peekaboo can be found in the wild. Yeah, it's just like all these insane things that like I think about like Terraria now, and I'm like, it's this game where I'm like, yo, I'm sorry if I have to like look up in the Wikipedia rules in order to like make central functions of your game work. It's you've failed in communicating that stuff to me. Yes, there is a character in that game that will tell you certain things, but like you've made it so that like I don't have time to experiment with every configuration of every item in the fucking game, man. Like, just tell me what to, like, give me a visual indication on what to do, you know?
Yeah, that is a weird thing. Does it not, like, games can be designed with the knowledge, oh yeah, the internet exists, people are going to look something up, like, yeah.
Yeah, and we don't have to do all this extra work, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a list here. It's like the recurring elements that sort of show up in these. Like one of them is Mr. Psychic. He's a character who gives you a training machine, and because he's called Mr. Psychic, the idea was, oh, you do something, and then he'll detect it, and you talk to him, and he gives you Peekaboo or something. Yeah, yeah. Another one was Bill's Garden. There's a character named Bill who has a house that you can't get into. So the idea was, oh, you figure out a way to get in his house, and he has a garden in the back where you can catch Peekaboo or one of the other PokéGods. There was
Well, what's funny is that like. With ROM hacks now, you can go into some of these places and like see what can be caught there. Most of the time it's nothing because that would have to have been programmed individually. But yeah, like a lot of these, you can actually break the game and look at it. And you can also do the same thing with what they did with, I know they did it with a lot of games, but particularly Silent Hill 1, you can just crack that game open and see every single texture, every single sound file, everything everywhere. And they did the same thing with Silent Hill 2 to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that there are no hidden monsters anywhere in either of those games.
Yeah, and it's pretty fun because now games that do updates will put fake stuff in there to throw people off who are doing data mining. Like they'll put like hints that a character is being added who isn't being added, or like I remember in Undertale, Toby Fox put a little message being like, "Guys, can you please not leak this stuff for the first couple of weeks? Let people figure it out on their own." And of course, it all got put out right up.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, just a lot of the different characters like that, having secret ones, a lot of them having to catch all the Pokemon or do a certain thing a number of times. Like, just combinations of that are most of these. So that's why I just want to do a few of them.
Wasting children's time is what it is.
Exactly, yeah. And so with Peekaboo in particular, in November 1999, the Pokemon movie came out, and we got to learn that Peekaboo is just a normal Pokemon named Meryl, and that kind of ended pretty, it was a cute movie. I saw it like pretty much everyone in my generation, but yeah.
I do wish I could have been there with all of the older brothers who told their younger brothers about Peekaboo being actually, a PokéGod that can kill time. And just I wish I could have been there in the theater and just like slowly turned my head over to them,
Oh, this Peekaboo is named Meryl. That's weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And also, like, because Peekaboo is kind of the emblem of all this, like, he still gets fan art and is treated kind of like a meme. Like, I found this tweet, like, from a Pokemon fan goes, "Hey, so does anyone remember when scientists in Kanto first saw Meryl and immediately thought it was a Pikachu subspecies? I think they even want to name it Peekaboo for some reason. What other weird early scientific inaccuracies do you know about?" Like, this in-universe explanation of why they called it Peekaboo. I thought it was cute.
That's fun. I like that.
Yeah, I'm just like fan art, like people designing like their own, like a more modern Peekaboo version, or like that kid from school is right. His uncle did work for Nintendo, and I'm real. It's cute. Yeah, like even on Bulbapedia, their Project Fandom, the section dedicated to documenting fandom stuff like this, uses Peekaboo as its mascot, a little palette shifted Pikachu. Very cute.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was having to explain what chiptunes are to someone recently, and I was just like, well, that kid from grade school who said that his uncle worked for Nintendo and he could get a solid gold Game Boy with all of the secret Pokemon on it? That kid grew up and has access to methamphetamines. That's what it's a genre of music for that kid specifically.
That's great, yeah. And I have like there's like four types of PokéGods basically. The most common one was a lot of them were just, like I mentioned, upcoming Pokemon that hadn't gotten officially named or released in English. Like one of those was Bruno, which turned out to be Snubble. Like there's this little pink bulldog, and like, there's a way of catching him. You do all this stuff, and no, it just turns out it's Snubble. He's just a little cute bulldog Pokemon. Also like Ho-Oh and Togepi. A lot of this was because of the anime, because the anime kind of came out before the game, so you'd see these Pokemon before you could actually play as them.
But Togepi was for sure in Pokemon Red and Blue.
No, that's number 175. That was a gold and silver one. It was in the anime.
Really?
It was in the anime really early because Misty found it. So it was like we got to see it way before the other Pokemon from that generation.
Oh, okay. Because I remember Togepi was one of Misty's crew. I also one of my favorite things on Bulbapedia is looking up the other translations of Pokemon names.
Oh yeah, those are very fun.
Look up Bulbapedia. Yes, there you go. German Pokemon names.
German Pokemon.
you know where I'm going.
Glurok, Slurp, Tortok, Ropey, Smethbo.
Yeah, Smethbo. Pidgeot. Yeah, that's so. Oh yeah, Rattata is Ratfrats. Raticate is Ratacarl. Spearow is Habitak, which that's good. That's really good.
Arbok is still Arbok.
Yeah, Arbok is Arbok. That's funny.
Peepee and Pixie.
Peepee and Pixie for Clefairy and Clefable. Vulpix is Vulpix. That's fine.
Yeah. Nuddleluff for Wigglytuff and Pummeluff for Jigglypuff. These are all so good.
Pummeluff. That's fun. But yeah, go down to Snorlax.
Oh yes, Snorlax. Let me find that big boy. Here we go.
Let me find that big boy.
Yeah. Relaxo.
Yeah,
yes.
Snorlax is Relaxo, but what was Hypno?
Hypno. What? Just Hypno.
Oh, just Hypno. Okay.
Drowsy is Tramato.
Drowsy is Tramato. That's so funny.
Like a Clamato, but with trauma instead of clams.
That's great. That's funny.
Thank you, Germany.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a gift link to this episode and give it to Caitlin, because this is a bonding moment for us. Is totally. All the Pokemon bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another type was just was like fictional evolutions of existing Pokemon. Like, the idea of like, let's take an existing Pokemon and make it even more badass. So like,
yeah. It makes me think of, there's a YouTuber called Sucker Pinch, and his, one of the things he used machine learning. He's like a genius level software designer. And his thing was like, I want to know what we have an uppercase and a lowercase, but I want to know what the uppest case and the lowest case of letters are. But I don't know how to design that. And so I'm just going to try to have machines figure it out for me. And so he downloaded all of the fonts. Like, he just did some sort of like web scrape and went to DeFont or whatever and downloaded over 100,000 fonts, and then ran a generator on it, or like a data analysis system on it, to figure out what happens when we go from an uppercase to a lowercase, and how can we then transpose that to go from the lowercase to an even lower case, or from the uppercase to an even upperest case. And it's just fucking fascinating. And so you get these kind of like what was just above there, where it's like, okay, so in Pokemon, you start off as this little cute thing, and then you turn into like a little tough teenage version of it, and then you have the fully adult version of it. And then with all of the PokéGods, it's like, yes, but then it has a gun, and then it has wings and a mech suit, you know?
Yeah, it's basically like, what if Pokemon were Digimon?
Yes, exactly. It just gets stupider and stupider.
Yeah, and I got a list pulled it up there, and a couple of explanations. Like for Venusaur, there's like Saposaur, and that one was because in the anime there was an episode with ghosts, and one of the ghost hallucinations was a mixture of Venusaur and Blastoise, and people were like, "Oh, that's an actual Pokemon." So people made up, Blastoise evolving into Raynar, Charizard to Charcolt, Beedrill to Beepin. I like Nidoking and Nidoqueen evolve into Nidogod and Nidogoddess.
I do like that Hypno turns into Dream Master, which I don't think that there's any Pokemon with a space in its name.
Yeah, there wasn't a Dream Master. It evolves into Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Onyx evolves into Demonix, and I found one of the Demonixes here. Demonix Dragon. It can crush smaller Pokemon with its strength and burn them with powerful fire attacks.
Jesus Christ. I do like that it's only 102 pounds.
Yeah.
I like that Gengar turns into just Spooky.
just Spooky. Flareon turns into Flareth. It is capable of picking up its victim while scorching them with its red-hot claws. Just these extreme 90s Pokemon. One of them, Mewtwo, evolves into Mew 3. They thought Mew 3 was the Mewtwo wearing armor from the anime.
That's awesome.
I love Mew 3. Oh, finally, Mew 3. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the most nebulous one was just ones that were wholly fabricated, and very obviously so because of how incongruously dark and edgy they were. Like Doomsday was the big fictional PokéGod. Just all these revenant-looking Pokemon.
Yeah, that's so funny. And
resurrected from the bowels of Earth.
They look completely unrelated to anything else that you've ever seen in like the Pokemon visual language, which is very funny.
Yeah.
Like it makes, none of these make us a fucking, I do like that it's, Doomsday is listed as Pokemon. Literally Pokemon. Yeah. And its attack is 666. Oh, that rips.
Also, I love that in one of these, his height is 91 feet 4 inches, but his weight is 0.1 pounds. He's like a foam Pokemon.
foam type. Yeah.
Nerf.
Yeah. Compressed gas. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the smallest group of PokéGods was just people kind of making up fan fiction about the different Missigno graphics and imagining them as actual Pokemon named like Anthrax, Millennium, Mysterio, Ruin, Doomsay.
I do. It's like a look into like the scary things from the time period, because Anthrax and Millennium were two of the scary things from that exact time period.
How the PokéGods predicted 9/11.
Yeah, I do like Doomsay and Doomsday are both listed as different things.
And also Cyber and Cybird.
Right. God, that's funny.
Yeah, and like these were such a thing that Nintendo themselves poked fun at this. In the year 2000, Nintendo Power's April Fool's Day article was about Pokemon number 160. Shocking news from Japan exposes a hidden Pokemon, an Italian Pokemon. And the April Fool's joke was that Luigi was a PokéGod. Type 1 plumber.
Type 1 plumber. That's so funny. Yeah, it's just Luigi, level 64. Good for him.
Yeah. The first exclusive screenshot of the Luigi Pokemon. We wonder what other Nintendo classic characters could be in this game. And you can tell they're having fun with this. As far as gaming news goes, it just doesn't get any bigger than this. The story has been kept under wraps so tightly that even the pros at Nintendo Power Source have been in the dark. Shocking information has recently surfaced from Japan, revealing the location of Pokemon number 160. We were instructed to keep quiet, but we feel that our loyal readers deserve to know the truth. And they explain it to Luigi. And Luigi is an entirely new type of Pokemon called Plumber. He's equipped with a brand new list of special attacks. Here are the abilities we found so far, but we believe there may be more. Wrench, Mustache Slap, Gas, a poison ability, Cower, a defensive position, F Reunion, family reunion. This attack summons Mario and Yoshi for a group attack. And,
that's so funny.
And their fake version of Catria is very funny because they're like, one of the thing is they go, the crucial part, turn your Game Boy upside down. If the cartridge is not inverted, this trick won't work. With your Game Boy upside down, use a rare candy on Lickitung. If it doesn't take place, shake your Game Boy up and down, not left and right, and try it again.
Oh man, what's funny is that a lot of that could be done today with accelerometers in the Switch, right?
Yeah, also that's kind of what cartridge tilting is. Now that I think about it,
that's so funny. God. Yeah,
even Nintendo themselves were acknowledging and having fun with this. That was just a very different time. Yeah. It was such a slight thing. Like, I'm glad that this was documented. Like, I'm glad that other people are kind of thinking about this and writing it down for future generations. Because, this was a very of the time. And a neat thing I learned about this, too, is like part of the reason why people knew about Missigno is because someone posted about it on the official Nintendo forums for Pokemon. So from there, people learned about it and would go back to their playgrounds and be like, dude, you got to try this thing. So that argument, Missigno is from the internet. Like, if it weren't for the internet, it wouldn't have become such a well-known piece of playground mythology.
And like that exact fucking thing is why I like this podcast, is because like that was such a interesting period of time where we went home and went onto the internet and we found out some crazy shit and we went to the playground and talked about it. Like that experience is like gone, and I love it. And I love how like these weird falsehoods metastasize into other weird things of like Pokemon that aren't real and all of these bizarre things you have to do to catch Luigi or whatever. I think it's so fucking fun. It's just funny that they got the actual method wrong. Is if you want to catch Luigi, you have to have him ID'd at a McDonald's, and then the cops show up. So and he has 3 attacks. What is it? Defend, depose, or deny, defend, and depose.
And run.
And run. Yeah, that's funny.
Good bit. Yeah, I don't really have anything else after this, but this was just this was a fun space to occupy, and I know you're cold. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else you want to close out on? Or?
No, you're good, man. I'm just stretching. This is fun. Yeah, I love this stuff. I love to get into all the weird stories. So
yeah, and I'm looking forward for the show expanding because this is the stuff I'm thinking about and kind of trying to practice for that. It's nice to see like what is out there and documented to research for this. So I'm glad. Yeah, it's very, very promising.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening. You know where to find us. Please tell your friends, drop us a review, drop us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back soon. I'm still picking away at the Manson episodes, and that will be I think what we'll do is we'll put one on the main feed, and then we'll do the next 9 in here over however long that it takes to talk about them.
Yeah, so it's gonna be like a mini series event. It's pretty epic. If you're listening to this, that means you're gonna get to hear it all.
Yeah, God, thank you all so much, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, catch Mew.
I'm From the Internet is created by jaybrandstetter and Winslow Domain. Edited by Steve Brown. Music by Steve Is Broke.